We are agents of change, shining the light on corruption, land scams, children being raped, growing violence, and the wrecking ball of poverty. While we have grown and been able to expose many of the dark corners of our islands because of the confidence you and our advertisers have placed in us, there still is so much more to do, so much more to clean. Kandit's flame must grow brighter. Fuel this fire. If you want the light shined on corruption in our governments, rape and violence against children and women, land scams and poverty, then advertise with us or sponsor our programming in Guam and the CNMI. Call us at 671-922-NEWS or email us at advertise@candidnews.com. This is the future. Fuel this fire.
Hafa Day. I'm the owner of Guam's largest tourist attraction group. The pandemic's been very tough for all of us, and particularly for my team members. So I'm really appreciative and grateful for the PUA assistance to our team members, and more recently, the SVOG federal grant that allowed us to reopen these facilities and re-employ everyone at a critical time when PUA ended. From myself and my team, on behalf of all of us, thank you for the federal funds that allowed us to reopen.
The federal fund you provide saved many jobs. Thank you so much.
We employ about 35 technicians for our shows. Thank you for the federal funds that kept us going.
Thank you for helping with the federal funds.
Thank you for the federal funds.
Thank you for helping to save our jobs.
Thank you for the federal funds.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Half a day. This is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero. If you're struggling to pay rent and utilities because of the pandemic, your government can help. Our emergency rental assistance program provides direct relief to you. To date, over $6.9 million has helped over 1,500 households.
Apply online at eoa.guam.gov or call the Department of Administration's Emergency Rental Assistance Program at 671-638-4518 or 19.
Buenas and welcome back. It's the afternoon, February 16, Wednesday, and right now the Guam Legislature Committee on Health, chaired by Speaker Therese Terlahi, is in the Zoom room preparing to start its oversight hearing of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. And if you're a Kandit viewer, you know why this is important, and it is this ongoing struggle that this island has been in to keep bad doctors accountable to this community. And the Guam Board of Medical Examiners is supposed to be our first line of defense because they are the body that licenses these doctors. But what senators have been finding, what the public has known for quite some time, is that the Guam Board of Medical Examiners knows about the bad records that many of the reject doctors from the mainland United States have, anything ranging from DUIs to outstanding complaints, to malpractice claims, to sex crimes and allegations of sex crimes. Despite knowing these things, the Guam Board of Medical Examiners has freely licensed these doctors to practice on Guam. And what has spilled over has been a barrage of complaints against some of these doctors. And so the Guam legislature, under the leadership of Speaker Chalahi, is now asking what the hell is going on. And so where are we? Can we show our audience the Zoom room to see what's going on in the Zoom room? Oh, my goodness. Can you make the volume louder? What a sight.
Are we also able to get an audio and visual check on you?
They're testing. I wonder if they're live yet on YouTube. Let's see.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, perfect. Will you be testifying today or just attending?
No, just attending. And I also wanted to let
Can our audience hear them?
Madam Speaker, Senator Therese know I'm actually teaching right now my class in a break, but I can join you for a half hour, but I apologize. I will have to leave after 30 minutes. I hope that's all right. Thank you.
Yes, no worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, staff, are we ready?
You should be good, Speaker.
All right, audio, we could count us down.
Okay, Madam Speaker, stand by. Okay, Madam Speaker, we'll be going live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Half a day, the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is now called to order. Today's Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, and the time is 4:05 p.m. Notices for this virtual oversight hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Wednesday, February 9, and again on Monday, February 14, 2022. The notice was also published in the Guam Daily Post on the same days. The Zoom meetings hosted by the legislature's AV staff and my committee staff, and I thank them for their assistance. The host will mute all Zoom participants until called upon by the chair. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking, and begin please by stating your name for the record-keeping purposes. I'd like to acknowledge and thank my colleagues for attending today, beginning with Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Anthony Ada, and Senator Frank Blas Jr., to those colleagues. Prior to the start of this hearing, those testifying today were all sworn in by the Guam Legislature's Sergeant of Arms, Ed Paquaigi. Thank you, Sergeant of Arms. I'd like to thank the Guam Board of Medical Examiners members and the staff from the Department of Public Health and Social Services Health Professional Licensing Offices that are here with us today. So the committee has invited all members of the Board of Medical Examiners. On February 8th, we sent a letter to attend this oversight hearing to further improve the public's understanding of board procedures. We also sent a reminder last night, and so I very much want to thank those who have attended, beginning with the chairman, Dr. Nathaniel Berg. Dr. Nathaniel Berg was reconfirmed in October 2020 to his second consecutive term. The vice chair, Phil Flores, he is the public member of the board. He was reconfirmed in October 2020 to his second consecutive term. Member Dr. Annette David, who was appointed in October 2019 and reappointed in December 2020 to her second consecutive term. Thank you again for being present with us here today. I'd also like to acknowledge the other members of the board who are not present today. Annie Berdalio, she is the medical director of the Guam Memorial Hospital. She's the only member that is not confirmed by the legislature because she is the medical director, and by statute,
that is her position. So she will serve on the medical licensing board. And I understand that Dr. Annie Berdalio has a death in the family, her mother, and so we extend our condolences to her. Dr. Arenia Adolfson, who was appointed and confirmed in 2019 to her first term. Dr. Louis G. Cruz, who was appointed and confirmed in 2020 to his first term. Dr. Scott Shea, who was appointed and confirmed in 2020 to his first term. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the administrator of the Health Professional Licensing Office of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, Ms. Zenia Cipacina. Also, the acting HPLO administrator, Brianna Sablan. The HPLO staff, Sienna Galindo, Rosemary Carmen, and Attorney Robert Weinberg, who is the Assistant Attorney General assigned to the HPLO board as their legal counsel. All right, we have asked the board members, of course, to be here because, in furtherance of confirmation hearings where we talk to them about the time commitment, the roles and responsibilities of the medical board, and currently with the questions that the public has, I thought it might be helpful for them to hear directly from members of the board, particularly in terms of the role of the board when the board has discretion, when there are not, when it's within their discretion to act in different ways. Of course, it's up to the board to ensure timely review of complaints. And I've decided to hold this oversight at 4 p.m. And I know it's probably any time is difficult for the doctors to attend. So I'm very grateful, but I've chose this time because this is the time that some of the meetings have been held for the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. And I want to as close as possible as that. All right, we also have some members of the public who are present with us today. So we will hear from the board members first, and then I will invite those members of the public to submit testimony. And I've also invited the public who wish to testify to submit testimony in writing in advance of the hearing so that I could distribute that to all the senators. All right, so to begin, the Committee on Health, and I want to summarize these so that we don't have to go over some of these points and we can, get to the progression from there. The Committee on Health has held 2 oversight hearings of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, one on June 2020. We focused on the status of the revolving fund allocations, updates regarding of licenses, the status of hiring investigators, hearing officers, attorneys for all boards, and allocation of costs, updates on the complaints, on the reporting requirements of malpractice insurance companies, and the status of GBME compliance with Public Law 31-84, which is the Patient Protection Through Information Act, which requires information to be put up on the website regarding practitioners. The second oversight we held on November 2021. The committee focused on the status of FY22 revolving fund. That's our current fiscal years, the allocations to each of the boards, the FY 2021 expenditures and balances that might be left, the ability to investigate, review, and adjudicate claims, and the status of rules and regulations and fee schedule for each of the boards. So through those hearings, we discovered that all the board members are assigned cases on this Board of Medical Examiners. They are assigned cases to investigate. No complaints filed between the years of 2018 to 2020 had resulted in a hearing, an adjudication hearing. The HPLO and the Guam Board of Medical Examiners have successfully procured a contract for their website pursuant to that public law for the Patient Protection Through Information Act, and which created the website for access of the public, and that all boards are receiving the revenues that they've brought in, so money is available to them. HPLO has the ability to secure a prosecuting attorney and a hearing officer, which they stated was the most needed for cases to move forward. They had the ability to obtain review from off-island specialists at the board's discretion. And the boards are authorized by statute to promulgate rules and regulations. And Otherwise, they follow the administrative adjudication law. All right, so in November 2021, HPLO confirmed that it confirmed that it obtained a prosecuting attorney and a hearing officer and a conflicts attorney and was issuing an RFQ to continue those positions again. And that it was going to meet with the Commission on Healing Arts, which is the commission with the heads of all boards, all licensing boards in one commission, to review the establishment of an investigator and inspector positions in-house and the position descriptions. We also discussed that the administrative adjudication law provides that hearing officers must be provided by the Office of the Attorney General of Guam, and that had been the practice for many years, and that it had changed, and that I think I confirmed at that time too that the Department of Public Health was supposed to, have discussions anew with the Attorney General regarding reinstating that service. All right, so today's oversight, we will focus on 3 things that have been noticed. One is the board's procedures and discretion of physicians with complaints in other jurisdictions. 2, the public disclosure of current accusations, physician license revocations, suspensions, or other disciplinary actions by other jurisdictions pursuant to Public Law 3184, the Patient Protection Through Information Act, or the website. And 3, the complaint investigation and hearing timelines, updates to complainant or reporting entity. Upon examination of the Physicians Practice Act, Title 10, Chapter 23, Guam Code Annotated, the law is very clear that the Guam Board of Medical Examiners holds a great amount of discretionary authority regarding the approval, denial, and revocation of applications for full, temporary, and special licensure to practice on Guam. For example, 12203 grants GBME authority to reinstate revoked licenses at its discretion, but to use such discretionary authority in a consistent manner and with great assurances that the reinstatement of a license will not jeopardize the public. 12205, among other things, states that applicants for full licensure shall provide the board and attest to the following information and documentation: a list of all jurisdictions in which the applicant has been denied licensure or authorization to practice medicine, or has voluntarily surrendered a license or an authorization to practice medicine. A list of all sanctions, judgments, awards, settlements, convictions against the applicant in any jurisdiction that would constitute grounds for disciplinary action under the Medical Practice Act or the board's rules and regulations. 12205G states the applicant shall not have been found guilty by a competent authority of any conduct that would constitute grounds for disciplinary action under the regulations of the board. The board should be authorized at its discretion to modify this restriction for cause, but it should be directed to use such discretionary authority in a consistent manner. So I've invited each of the board members to attend today's oversight hearing so that we can get a better understanding of their discretion to license physicians or to sanction physicians. Through these hearings, we're examining any gaps and need for potential changes that might be necessary in the statute or additional policies that must be put into place to better clarify the board's procedures and authorities. There have been complaints made to my office and others that the board is licensing people that have complaints in other jurisdictions, resolved and unresolved, and that they pose a risk to Guam and perhaps should not have been licensed. Furthermore, a big concern expressed by stakeholders as well as this committee in past hearings is the fact that when a complaint is filed in Guam, this information is not publicly posted and there's no notice to any other person who might also have suffered the same situation. To add to that concern is that complainants are often not kept in loop as to the status of their complaints after filing with the board. And sometimes resolution of the complaint is made without any discussion with the complainant. So in response to these inquiries, I sent a letter to GBME on January 27, 2022, asking them to inform each complainant as to the status of their case and that all updates include reasons as to why their cases are not moving forward. We've received confirmation from the HPLO secretary who works with GBME that they will work to ensure complainants are contacted with an update. So through this oversight, again, we will try to ensure whether there are any gaps in policies that require legislative action or if there are any policies that board can implement by rules and regulations to further clarify the processes that we are discussing. I'm also very concerned because of the allegations against certain doctors of sexual assault, and I'd like to assess the board needs training in assessment of sexual assault cases. As is the case, we have required that for other boards, such as, for example, parole board, very specialized training and special training in for the rest of government employees because of the evolution of these types of cases and what we have learned in recent years as to this type of, in particular, this type of case. The nature of the offense, history of the person committing these offenses, especially if multiple complaints, professional assessments relative to whether they can or cannot be rehabilitated are crucial considerations that should guide the decision to grant, reinstate, or revoke a license. All right, so on February 8th, I sent to each board member the following questions for this hearing. So first, for the board procedures and discretion of physicians with complaints, discretion to license physicians with complaints in other jurisdictions, process when applicants have records of disciplinary action by boards from other jurisdictions. How many physicians have been granted licenses with prior disciplinary action, and what is the criteria for granting these licenses? How many physicians were approved with conditions set by the board? How are these conditions determined? The second item is public disclosure of current accusations, physician license revocations, suspensions, or other disciplinary actions by other jurisdictions pursuant to Public Law 3184, the Patient Protection Through Information Act. Please provide update as to what information is currently available on each physician profile. When and how often are profiles updated to reflect accusations, revocations, suspensions, or other disciplinary actions? How many physicians have accusations filed by the AG? What does the board do with the licenses of physicians that have accusations filed by the Office of the Attorney General? Third is the complaint investigation and hearing timeline updates to complainant or the reporting entity. Does the board set timelines for investigating complaints? Do outstanding cases get reassigned when members are unable to provide updates due to their schedules? What does the board do when parties involved are required to submit information to the board but are unresponsive? How often are complainants or reporting entities updated as to the status of their cases? All right. And without further ado, these questions have been provided in advance. They've also been provided to the senators. And so now I will ask for testimony from the chairperson of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, Dr. Berg. There he is. Dr. Berg. Dr. Berg, you're still on mute. It looks like Dr. Berg went off temporarily. Maybe there they are. Off a day, Dr. Berg. You're welcome to proceed if you're able. Please unmute.
We're having, Madam Speaker, we're having connectivity issues. If you give us a second, we're gonna try an alternative road. Hold on one sec.
Okay, well, I can hear you clearly right now.
Whoever's in charge, I'm going to try to connect with my phone so you can have this here, but we cannot. So in case this goes out, that I have the phone as a backup. Hold on one sec, because we missed about half of what was there, but my phone may actually be a better connection. Yeah, it's got it. Okay. Wi-Fi or cellular. Cellular.
Recording in progress.
Okay, turn that. Turn that.
I would suggest you mute your phone for now. Then you can keep it on, but mute it.
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I am. But there's an echo, so if you can mute your phone and just use this thing right now.
Volume all the way off. Hold on one sec. Mute this. How's that, Speed Man? This won't mute? This won't mute? Oh, there we go. Yeah. I think we're okay. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me okay, Madam Speaker?
No, that's not going to work. It's too echoey. If you could please either press mute on the phone or just turn off the phone, and let's just proceed with this connection you have here.
Or just stop this altogether. Okay, now how's that?
Yes, that's fine. Please proceed.
Okay, then we'll try that. We'll try that.
Yeah, I can't see you, Dr. Berg. We need to see you on the screen.
I'll fix that too. Okay, and speaker there. I think that should be about as good as we're going to be able to do, unfortunately. How's that? Can you see me now?
There you go. All right, please proceed.
I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat your question because when it was going in and out.
No, I just read the questions that I sent to you by letter and on June 8th, February 8th. Sure. So, yes. Yep. You want me just to go through the first two, at least are applied to me. Shall I do that? Okay. Yes, please.
So if you don't mind, first of all, I'd like to let you know that as you had mentioned, Dr. Bordalio's mom died last week, and Dr. Scott Shea is in the middle of a case, and Dr. Lewis Cruz is off island, and Dr. Arania Adolfson had an extraordinary tragedy last week with her sister-in-law was in an accident and died along with her 3 children. So I think you can understand why there's just 3 of us here.
Sure, thank you very much, Dr.
So you understand that. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Now, so how many physicians have been granted licenses with prior disciplinary action? What is the criteria for granting licenses? And how many physicians were approved with conditions set by the board? So, all right. So as you had mentioned, Madam Speaker, first of all, the numbers, those types of numbers in terms of how many we keep and what time period is being addressed is handled by the administrative aspect of the board, by the HPLO. But with regard to disciplinary action and what is the criteria for granting these licenses, as you had mentioned, we have a great deal of leeway in terms of how we handle each application, whether it's with regard to assessing discipline and complaints, and also for applications. In point of fact, I wanted just to tell you that is it is the national standard. So the FSMB states that we are a member of just for those who may not know, the Federation of State Medical Boards. We are a board. Our board is a member of the Federation of State Medical Boards, which tries to make rather uniform methods of assessing these things to the extent possible. And when I say that, I'll just state what they say. State medical boards utilize a variety of tools as they go about the process of disciplining physicians and or licensing. When issues arise, whether they are minor, such as a failure to timely pay a fee, or are more serious, a variety of formal actions may be taken by a board, allowing them the flexibility to apply a level of disciplinary response, or licensure in this case, that is appropriate for the issue being addressed. And I say that because it's very difficult, and they are individualized cases. So the same type
Dr. Berg, we can't hear you again.
A driving under the influence that would have led potentially to a board at an outside board disciplining a person. If that took place, that one incident took place 3 months ago, and it was the 4th one, would be treated in a very different fashion than someone who has been a physician for 40 years and they had a DUI when they were in high school and had otherwise a very clean record. So the idea of having a criteria is very difficult, perhaps impossible, and recognized by the FSMB. The real way that we do it, because that is impossible basically, is, as you had mentioned in that board, is to try to do it in a consistent manner. And you will see in our minutes that it often references after prolonged discussion. And you also see in our board that we do treat them individually and discuss them. And so I will give you an example of some of the ways that we look at physicians with prior disciplinary actions. Is we do follow the general legal rule of reciprocal discipline, so that if someone is disciplined, for example, and has a license that is suspended, we would not grant that person a license. And we have had people apply whose licenses are suspended in other jurisdictions. So if you want to say criteria, one of them is that they have no ongoing investigations and they are not in a stipulated agreement with their board that would allow for things like suspension or revoked for a period of time. Those people are not granted licenses. And we have done that on numerous occasions, declined to license anybody under active investigation. There are some that are kind of in between. So, for example, we had an applicant who was at the tail end of having fulfilled all of the requirements for an alcohol rehabilitation program. The individual had an alcohol issue, acknowledged it, and was under treatment and under the supervision of the board for, if I recall correctly, 36 months. And about 34 months or 33 months into that stipulated agreement was applying for a license on Guam. So I should say the board decision was that we would contact that state board and ask them, would you allow that person to relocate to Guam and under what conditions? And they gave the conditions that they would review the work environment, the physicians who would be supervising that person, and that physician would also remain under the under that same stipulation and would continue to report to the originating board until it was done. So we granted that person a limited license, a temporary license, so as to allow continued observation of that physician, both on the part of our board and the board where that person came from. So there is a sort of in-between case. And there are other cases, indeed, where the actions that were taken against the physician were of a much more minor nature and much more remote, right? So that they were many years ago and were minor. I cannot think of one offhand, but we have, for example, DUIs that I mentioned that had occurred when someone was in college, right? And this was somebody who had been practicing for 20 years or so and had a stipulation by their home board that where they were to be, they had stipulations and they had fulfilled them. And those having then allowed that, having had that person practice for a number of years after that was done, in this case, I think it was around 20 years, we granted that person a license. The other example are one where we just recently had a physician self-report that he had had a DUI. I'm trying to use similar things so that you can see that we try to be consistent. It had a DUI, but that we don't know if that was investigated by the state board or was being investigated by the state board. We just had a letter from that person's attorney saying, my client had a DUI and otherwise has a clean record. So in that case, we said, we will contact the state board and ask them, have they had a chance to investigate? The general agreement among
I can't hear you again, Dr. Burke.
In the Federated States of Medical Board jurisdiction does the investigation, and that we generally, I don't know if it's the correct legal term, but honor the investigation, right? That if that, so we see what their stipulations are and see if that person fulfilled the stipulations. And then generally speaking, we want a period of time in which we see that there was no additional complaint or action that was put in. It's not easy. And you had mentioned the parole board somewhere in this discussion. I think that's very interesting because it is, in a sense, appropriate to talk about that. In that we have to balance the needs of our community to have healthcare providers with the much more dominant thing of protecting the public, and that balance can be extremely difficult. And in a sense, that if you have a parole board and you have a younger person who committed a crime while being addicted to methamphetamine, for example, goes to prison and is a model prisoner and comes before that probation board and is says, I've done everything I can, I want to go out there and be a contributing member to society, the parole board may make the decision that it is in the best interest of society to let that person out on parole and to become a good citizen because of the total assessment that they make on that person who has committed a crime and is in prison. 10 years later, if that person is running a small business, employs people, and indeed became that model citizen and learned from his or her mistake, it's rare that someone comes to that parole board and says, thank you very much for giving that person parole. You did the right thing. What parole board members fear and what makes it difficult for us to recruit people on this board, as it is difficult to recruit people for parole boards, as I think you're aware, is that what comes back to us is when we make a decision that someone who committed an offense that led to discipline has been a model physician since then, fulfilled all of the stipulations, and we decide, okay, we'll let that person come and practice here. If that person re-offends, if you will, like the parole board, it comes back hard, right? Because we have deliberation. We have 6 physicians plus a member of the public who sits judging us to a certain extent, although Mr. Flores is indeed the vice chair and is a voting member of the board. To a certain extent, he's making sure that we are protecting the public. That is part of his role. And we do our best every time to try to look at those cases that have prior disciplinary action to judge whether or not we want that person to practice here on Guam. And do we get it wrong? I will tell you that we never purposely do so. We never do it because we're not trying to have proper discourse and discussion, but we surely, like parole boards, we cannot control the action of every license applicant after we give them their license. We certainly do our best and put that time in that we feel is needed, and we have those thorough discussions. So physicians have been approved by conditions. I don't have a number, but I can tell you during our last board meeting, we gave a physician a conditional license. We gave one physician, we tabled his consideration until I contact the board. And we indeed have a number of physicians that we have declined to give licenses to. And some of them are egregious. People, for example, who continue to practice medicine when they had a suspended license, and we don't give them their license. We didn't give their license, even on appeal. And then finally, there are those who we feel may have fulfilled their stipulations, but don't recognize the mistakes that they have made. And we have declined to give those people licenses as well. So I wish I could give you criteria, but I could say that the criteria that the FSMB, the Federation of State Medical Boards, has is what you had mentioned. Be consistent, be deliberative, and have a board that is made up of people from various backgrounds. And that's what we do, try to make sure that our board is not all people from the same specialty. It's not all people with the same number of years of experience, and that we have a member of the public is part of our board so as to make sure that the public is represented at every one of our board meetings. And that is his task.
All right, Dr. Burke, thank you. Can I just clarify then? So the process that the Board of Medical Examiners uses when applicants have records of disciplinary action in other jurisdictions is not in writing. It's something that you pretty much determine with by discussion of the board members.
Indeed, but I will add to that it is never, we never stop at a simple process. Meaning, for example, when if we see that there's a disciplinary action that is significant, as I'd mentioned, not one that says the applicant filed a late fee. Please understand, Madam Speaker, that some of them are very, very minor, right? So late fees, some of those lead to disciplinary action.
Right. Is there anything in writing that draws that line for you, distinguishes minor will be treated this way, serious allegations will be treated another way?
No, and I would actually state that I think that would be that other states don't. That it is all we follow the FSMB, which says treat each case individually. They don't want us to have strict criteria. They have criteria that are that allow for us to examine each individual because there would.
All right, then, and as to the question as to how many physicians have been granted license with prior disciplinary action, you don't have
not
enough.
many. No, but I can. No, but I can tell you this, ma'am, that there are 1 million, over 1 million. Pardon me?
We sent this letter on February 8th. Yeah. So can we expect to get an answer to that question? Or
that, ma'am, is part of the administrative part of the board, not the medical component of it. We have, of course, two parts of our health professional licensing office. One is the board that we do the adjudication and things of that nature, but we don't keep track of the statistics. And I don't personally do that, and I don't think the vice chair or other members keep those numbers. That is part of the health professional licensing office who is here. We don't look at those statistics. We don't keep track of those ourselves. But
are there so many that you can't remember how many that you've done?
No, well, that's what I was getting at, ma'am, is that there are very few, that there are over 1 million licensed physicians in the United States of America. And if you look at the actions, the latest because of the...
Dr. Berg, yeah, we're only looking at Guam. I just want to know, and I don't
but I think it's forever. I understand that, but I do want to tell you that it's not many. For probation, suspension, and revocation in the entire United States in 2020, it was 0.1% of physicians. So it's not many.
Yes, no, I only want to know how many physicians, and I put this to you in writing so we could get very direct and we don't have to, spend so much time speculating about other situations. Just how many physicians have been granted licenses with prior disciplinary action, and what is the criteria? So we've already established the criteria is dependent on the board and their discussion, but the physician, how many, you don't, there's no answer for that today.
I would say I would defer to the administrative part of the HPLO to give you statistical data.
How many physicians were approved with conditions set by the board?
Again, I think you'd have to, we don't, as physician members, we don't keep track of that. And I knew, by the way, it's not a,
you as board members,
I knew that, hold on.
Is that correct?
I'm answering your question, ma'am. That I knew that the administrative part of the board would be here, of the health professional licensing office, and that's not a question that we received as a board. It's not, that's part of the HPLO office to also receive these questions. So we don't personally, as the physicians, we don't keep track of those type of statistics. I don't think that's our job personally.
All right. The question is, how many physicians were approved with conditions set by the board? I thought this was an unusual practice or an extraordinary one, but if this is so numerous that you can't remember, then I will ask them.
It's a small number, ma'am. It's a small number.
Yeah, that's all we wanted to know. And I know that the board is sitting right there with you and that you've met with them. And so I can understand that these questions can't be answered quickly. And so the next one was,
but ma'am, the part of it is, ma'am, you didn't put a time frame. The board's been in existence since 1972. Did you want to know since 1972?
That's up to you if you're going to go back to 1972. You know, what we really want to know is while, the current board members have been there. That's been in the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Maybe I would say I can recall 4 cases since I've been on the board. 4 cases that were given licenses with conditions. But now also, I should say to you, the reason that and I'm not being evasive. So for example, let me give you an example, one that you tell me if it's with conditions or not. So we had a physician who had cancer and he hadn't practiced for 3 years. And we told him before he could apply, he would have to go to the professional evaluation board. It's called CPEP, the continuing, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's the recognized by the FSMB, that they go there and get evaluated for competency because he hadn't practiced. He had no disciplinary action. We told him you have to go to CPEP. And if CPEP says you're okay, then you can apply. I don't really know if that's approved by conditions set by the board. We told him he can't apply if he doesn't go to CPEP first and get something that says he's okay, right? So we've had that. We've had others where we said, well, we need to contact the board. The state board that you came from has to say you're okay. Well, we didn't decline the license, but we said there are conditions that we need to see before we're going to do that. So it's not quite as easy, but 4 were given licenses with conditions that we set and we granted the license. Some had to meet certain conditions before we would entertain their license. We didn't decline their license. So ultimately it was approved. And the conditions were that they go to one of these programs and get, and we need a clean slate from them that says, yes, this person remains competent despite having not practiced for 3 years. So it was a guy who thought he was dying, but he ended up living. And so he stopped practicing, but he ended up living. So it's not that I'm being evasive. I'm saying I'm not sure that I can give you an exact number because of those particular cases, which is probably more often than not, we say we want more information. Is that a condition for licensure? I think so, but it is not a conditional. The conditions were approved with conditions. Yes, some of them said we want court documents and we've reviewed them. So that is a condition. But ultimately, those who were given a license that said, yes, you can have a license, but you have to meet these conditions while practicing is 4. Many more cases are not denied a license and we tell them we'll consider it once under these conditions. Give us more records or something of that nature. We had 2 of those just last week that we said we want more information before we will consider giving you a license. That is a condition of licensure, but not post-licensure. It's only 4 that were post-licensure.
Okay, thank you. And so then the next question, are you able to answer as to the status of the physician profiles pursuant to the Patient Protection Through Information Act?
Right. And I think, Mr. Flores, perhaps you can address that as well, because we really, as the physician members, and I think Xenia knows this, we've had this discussion regarding these questions, and they said, no, that really is our job, if you will. All right. So then, I'm going to defer to Xenia for regarding the website.
That's fine. Then I will ask Xenia these questions, but the statute that I am reading puts these obligations very squarely on the Board of Medical Examiners, which is why I address my questions to the board members.
Sure.
Ask for answers from the board members. Yeah. All right. So
I get that. I would say that we don't, just so you understand, again, we work as one board and one office together to try to get everything done. For example, the board must investigate. We can't do that if the cases aren't prepared for us and brought to us so that we have all the data. So as a board, we have administrative aspects and we have non-administrative aspects.
Dr. Berg, I differ with that because the responsibility is put on the board members, and it's the responsibility of the board members to ensure that these are updated, and they should be able to answer that these are updated or not, because if they're not, then the board should be very much concerned and active with finding out why making sure that they are updated. The third one, if you're not going to answer about the updates to the website, are the complaint investigation and hearing timelines. Does the board set timelines for investigating complaints? Do outstanding cases get reassigned when members are unable to provide updates to their, what does the board do when parties involved are required to submit information to the board but are unresponsive? How often are complainants or reporting entities updated as to the status of their cases? Dr. Berg, are you still there? Are you able to answer those questions?
Unmute. Hold on. I was sorry. We were trying to use the in-room camera, but it wasn't working. So I'm sorry for so I missed you asking, can I answer the 5 questions there?
No, I'm asking the questions that I sent to you in advance on February 8th. Yeah. So this is part the third set of questions.
Yeah, the board set timeline.
Yes.
So I wanted to answer that for you also by looking at what the FSMB says, because that's we are part of the Federation of State Medical Boards. And give you an example of, for example, I randomly chose Louisiana, which
Can you please just answer what you do here on Guam?
If you would allow me to answer the question, I will do so.
All right. Well, we want to know what you do here on Guam.
Yes, I know. And if you would bear with me and just let me answer the question, I would appreciate it. Okay?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? I'm not muted.
Yeah, please proceed, Dr. Berg.
Okay, so.
Does the board set timelines for investigating complaints?
Yeah, I randomly chose Louisiana, who on their FAQ, it's because it's easily available on the website. And this is in compliance with FSMB, which question says, how long does it take to process my complaint? It says, we strive to complete the review and investigation of complaints within 90 days of receipt of the forms. Occasionally, when a complaint is more complex and involves multiple patients, practitioners, or allegations, these investigations may take up to a year or more to complete. And I would say that's exactly the same as ours. The reason I said it is we don't have that published, but we comply with, so that is Guam's policy that happens to be in writing by the Louisiana board. And that's the same as the FSMB, which is we strive to get these done as quickly as possible. There are complex issues that can take a long time, and many of them are outside of the ability, and we've had this discussion before, that we're outside of the ability of the individual board members or the physician board members to be able to control. For example, procurement processes, as you know, we had difficulty with that, and obtaining out of Guam investigators. And we've made huge strides, and Xenia can attest to this. We've made huge strides in our ability to very quickly identify, as quickly as possible, to identify specialists who will be able to complete those investigations. We work with the FSMB. We have a case where our board liaison identified someone in Arizona who was willing to work on investigating our complaint. And do you want me to answer all 4 questions, right, or not?
Well, Dr. Berg, if I could clarify, I didn't ask, how long it has taken you for each complaint, because we have a timeline of those. I'm asked if the board sets timelines or goals for investigating complaints. And so you're saying you follow Louisiana, but that's not really been adopted by the board as a policy and it's not been posted. Well, so what about the outstanding cases where you're waiting for members to do the investigations and you're unable to provide updates? Those get, what do you do with those?
So in those cases, there are, as with all investigations of this sort, we do expect people to report timely, and we haven't had issues where physicians have been unable to report in a reasonable time frame. Such that cases were removed. I have to tell you that in many cases that would set things back terribly, because they may have interviewed patients, staff, the physician who the complaint is against, and review sometimes documents that are over a foot tall, and reviewing them and getting them organized. We have not had cases where they're unable to meet them due to their schedules. However, as I think you probably know, in the Physicians Practice Act, if a physician fails to attend 3 meetings in a row, we have the option of asking that person to step down so as to not have delays. And we have taken that action. We asked a board member, since I've been on the board, one or two, that we asked to step down to either attend. And we've had several that we had to remind them of their obligations, because one wants actively practicing physicians in our community. If you want people who are held in high regard, they tend to be very busy. So we don't want people who are too busy, right? So we've had physicians who are too busy, and we told them, we don't think, who were proposed as board members, that they have to understand their obligation. And as recently as 2 years ago, we had a physician who did not attend 3 times in a row, and Xenia then asked that person to resign, right? And then we had one that didn't attend 2, and we gave that individual a warning, because we don't want any delays. So the answer is that we will, rather than, if somebody's not performing their duties in a timely fashion as a board member, we will and have asked them to step down from the board. We have not removed cases per se, but except when those people stepped down, we took away all their cases and reassigned them, both of the times. So that answers that question, I hope. Okay, sure. And what about if you're seeking information from outside parties and they're not responsive? For example, it's an interesting thing. So we've had that on both on people who are putting in complaints, who for example, there are certain documents that they have to sign for releases for us, and people put in complaints and then we follow up and ask them for the documentation, and it doesn't happen. we tend to, in those cases, we send them, we send at least 3 reminders to of the need for follow-up and to give us documentation. Otherwise, we cannot proceed with investigation. If a physician doesn't do it, they get warnings. That's different. We get a request to the person who's putting the complaint in to provide that. We also do ask, we have asked, now that we have outside investigators, for them to give us an update as to how long it's going to take them to do the investigation. It typically does take months to get those reports back from the outside investigators. But the physicians, if a physician does not respond, as happened last year, we wrote that person and said disciplinary action will be taken for your failure to respond. And that physician then responded. I think we've had 2 or 3 of those in my tenure of physicians who did not respond in a timely manner. And then there was one that we never were able to contact, and that person didn't get their license renewed. So we do respond. We do enforce the rules in terms of how quickly the physicians have to respond. It's a little more difficult when you receive it from a complainant because we don't have rules and regulations as to how long someone would have to come and submit documentation that we are asking from the person who's putting in the complaint. Right now, Brianna and I talked about this. We've gone over all these issues. And Brianna said we have one right now that is 3 months that we've tried to get that person to submit the documentation so that we can proceed with the investigation. It's a difficult thing, right? We don't want to not proceed with investigations and close cases because we sometimes don't know why they're not responding. They might have personal health issues, right? So
Sure.
That's on a case. Go ahead.
Okay, what about information from other parties, other entities who are not the parties? For example, if, maybe hospital records that you might need and the hospital's not being complained about.
That took a long time. We did have a case there. That is left to the discretion of the we have had to FOIA, and we do follow up with and make calls as well as emails, and I think even personal visits telling them to please get those records in order and release them. Thus far, we've not had a failure to get the records. Have you? No, right? We've got them, but it's been sometimes we have to be aggressive.
Right. I'm asking.
Brianna's saying sometimes we get incomplete records, but we follow up very promptly. And thus far, with follow-up, I must say, unfortunately, sometimes it requires follow-up, but that's only been with the hospitals. I think the private clinics have been forthcoming with regard to medical records, right?
And the final question is, how often are complainants or reporting entities updated as to the status of their cases? These are the final question as the one that gave
that I'm glad you asked that question because I think we have taken for granted the fact that with almost all the cases, first, they're updated in a sense. I'm not saying that they're directly updated, in a sense, every month, because as cases are go through, that we address every outstanding case every month to determine the status of it by the investigator. However, when you ask that question, I think that as we go through our rules and regulations, that's a question that I think we need to address because we have, if you'll see at most of our board meetings, there's somebody who represents each one of the complainants at each of the board meetings, and therefore they get an update during the board meeting. But I think that question is, I'm glad that you posed that question because I will upon ourselves as part of our rules and regulations as we going through them page by page, will ensure that there is a process. We'll figure it out as a board as to what the appropriate methodology is. If that person is attending the board meeting, maybe they don't need to, but if they don't attend it, perhaps we will make sure that they get an update after the board meeting. But I think that's a fair question. And there is a mechanism for them to get updates by going to the public accountability that's posted there, and our meetings are posted and available, and they can attend at any time. But I'm glad you asked that question because we will address it in a better manner.
All right, thank you. So I have a lot more questions I'd like to ask. I'm sure my colleagues do as well, and I'd like to acknowledge again the presence of my colleagues. Maybe in a different order here. I'm just going to go with what I see on the screen. But Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Frank Blas Jr., Senator Teletai Tagui, Senator Anthony Ada. Thank you, colleagues, for being here.
Speaker, could you hold 1 second? We're going to try once again. The connection seems to be stable.
Recording in progress.
Go back.
All right, and now, thank you, Dr. Burke. I'm going to now ask the vice chair if he, as a board member, has any additional to provide as to those questions that were provided to you in advance.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I sense there's a part of frustration thinking that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't have the exact numbers for you on some of the questions. But I will tell you, our policy is not written. Our policy on complaints is to move as quickly as possible, be as fair as possible, be as thorough as possible. I think we can do a better job in communicating to the complainants, frankly, and that gets to the last of your questions when they're wondering what's going on. We talk about each case at each board meeting, and we didn't have a board meeting in December because several of us were on the East Coast. Dr. Berg was in Iceland. I was in Connecticut. I think Dr. David was in Boston. But otherwise, we very seldomly very seldomly miss a meeting, and we go over every complaint. We don't publicly talk about them in the sense that there's confidentiality on both the complainant's part and the physician's part. But we do discuss them, and we're thorough on them, and it's all in our minutes. And we see some things in the paper sometimes are just not accurate, and but complaints or complainants. But that's you're also the senators here. You see your names in the paper, or that's what you hear it on the media, and you go, "That's not what I said. That's not exactly right." It's the same thing with our board. But I do appreciate your sense of frustration, and we'll attend to those things. I hope that's good. And I also have to apologize. I don't know how to take down the screen behind me.
Oh, all right. That's
Can I clear something up from last night when I said that if we meet in a quorum, we have to notice? You said, "Are you sure?" And I thought that was so because my time on the hospital board and my time on the port board. I did check with Rob Weinberger today, and Weinberg, and he said, "No, if we're coming as witnesses, it's okay."
Thank you. So, Mr. Flores, what about how do you deal with processing applicants who have records of disciplinary action from other jurisdictions if there's no real set guidelines in writing, especially?
It's as Dr. Berg was saying, it's almost on a case-by-case basis. Realize I'm the rookie in the room forever as the public member. And I will say that almost every board meeting, I learned something new. I think at the hearing for my reconfirmation, I said, Speaker, if you're the smartest person in the room, go to another room. And if you're the least smart person in the room, stick around as long as I'll let you. And that's how I feel at almost every board meeting, because I'm learning more and more about the practice of medicine. So I remember when I first joined the board and we go through the qualifications, people applying for a license. And I said, "Oh, look at this." And the physicians would say, there's nothing special about that. That's normal. So when there's a problem that we see that's really a problem, now I've learned what really a problem means. We'll talk about it, and we won't necessarily solve the issue or get closure on the issue at that meeting. It might take 1 or 2 or 3 meetings, sometimes even 4 meetings, as we're going back and forth between the applicants saying, explain this, explain this, explain this, or we're going to that person. I'm going to just throw out in Mississippi. If that person's in Mississippi, then we go to the state board there and find out about it. What is the disciplinary action? So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how to say this, but it's kind of like, when you jump in the water, you swim to the other side. You get there. You're not sure exactly how you got there, but you get there. Our board is pretty thorough. The physicians and I do too. The physicians are very, very serious about who they let into the island to treat our patients.
All right. I guess, my concern is that the discretion between when we see something serious. Yeah. How do you know that's something serious? What do you do with those serious cases versus the minor cases?
Okay. So I'm going to go back to whatever Justice said. You don't know, you can't define pornography, but you sure know when it happens. And that's Well, first, I don't think there's a case that's not serious. It's just a degree of seriousness. And the physicians, they know, they can smell something's bad. And it's almost like second nature to them as to what this complaint means or what this problem means, because they've seen it so many times, not just as a member of our board, but as a member of the medical industry.
All right. Do you remember how many physicians have been granted licenses with prior disciplinary action since you've been on the board?
Very few. I can't give you a number, but Dr. Berg is correct. It's very few. We do say no.
2 or more. We know of 2 because they've been in the media. Are there more?
Well, I wouldn't trust what the media says all the time. Not to be insulting, but
well,
they're not always accurate. But I will tell you, I think it's. I can't think of more 4 or 5 off the top of my head, and actually, I can't even think of the names of those physicians. But we're pretty careful, Speaker.
All right. And what about do you approve them with conditions? Are there any conditions that your board is monitoring?
Yes.
For physicians that have been licensed? Yeah. How many physicians are acting under?
The one that jumps to the front for me is a case where there was a complaint made and the case was assigned to me. The one that Dr. Berg mentioned, who had drinking issues, we're not so much monitoring that as his state, the person's state is monitoring that. I'm going to say less than a handful.
The person's state is monitoring that, but he's practicing on Guam?
But he still has to report there. If they're monitoring you, I'll use Mississippi again. I don't know why. But if Mississippi is monitoring the physician and they continue to monitor that person, and we work with a state board in Mississippi.
All right. Are you able to give us an update as to the information that's required on the website and whether that's up to date, whether it reflects?
No, we're slow on that. That's administrative. And administration is very, very busy. I did know that there's one thing I think is required in the Speaker, and that's accusations. And I'm not arguing to change the law, but I am. To put an accusation on the site when it has not been settled, because so many accusations perhaps are not grounded in fact. I prefer that if we find against somebody, then it goes up there, as opposed to just someone saying, hey, that guy chopped off my leg when he shouldn't have. I think we're slow on that. We've been working on it for a while, and we could probably spend more time on it and do a better job.
All right, but you're aware that it's the board's duty to ensure that this law is complied with, that the information that's required is posted.
But I can tell you, being on this board is a little bit different than, as you know, I'm on several boards of companies which I control. And on that board, we have a lot more ability to say what goes on in that company. On this board, we have no ability. Yeah, and the staff, it is good staff, but we do not have the ability to hire somebody. We do not have the ability to fire somebody. We only work with the people that are there, and some of them are better than others. But I can't go, you got to do this. We can say, we're supposed to be doing this, but we can't go and say, you got to do this or we're going to fire you. But where we really need help? Investigations. I think we're close to hiring an attorney or investigator. We got an RFP out on it. Now we're negotiating, because the investigations to me we have 2 jobs. One of them is to look at licenses, and whether they be new or whether they be renewals. Renewals happen every odd year, like last year. And the other one is to deal with complaints. And you can't assign, I have been assigned, actually I'm working one right now, but I don't have the skill set to be an investigator. And if I'm going to say Dr. David or Dr. Berdallo, you go investigate that, they may have the skill set, but they certainly don't have the time to go do that. And that's where you really need help.
All right. And so the final set of questions is about complaint investigation and hearing timelines and whether updates are given to complainants or reporting entities. So are you aware of any timeline that the board has set for investigating complaints?
As quickly as possible.
All right. And do you believe that?
But again, I'll get back to what I said 10 minutes ago. I think that we could do a better job at communication. So much of what goes on in life is communication, and we can do a better job on that.
All right. What about outstanding cases who have been assigned to members to investigate, and if they're not timely reported on? I mean, do you find that to be a problem?
If somebody's not doing what they've been assigned to do on the board, it's different than if we're talking to somebody who works for the department, because at the board we have the ability to actually get on each other, but it doesn't happen very often. It's more along the lines of, are you asking the board members not being responsive, or the complainant, or the?
No, a board member.
Okay.
Well, because you are investigating yourselves, right? Or the doctors, you're investigating the doctors who are.
Yeah. So if we see, let's say you're on the board and you assign me to do a case, and I'm dragging it, I'm not working it, and it becomes obvious after 2 or 3 meetings, then the other people get on me. The members of the board would get on me. That hasn't happened, but I've done a few cases, and I've been there every meeting. We talk about every case. And if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, we say, first, what can we do to help you? What are you really lacking? And most often that's an investigator, an attorney, because Ron Weinberger has really helped the board, but he's not that type of attorney for us. We need an outside attorney. And it doesn't happen very often where the board member won't do their job because there's peer pressure.
I'm sorry, could you clarify what you mean by you need an outside attorney?
We can only use the Attorney General's office for certain things. And we need, sometimes for an investigation, we need an attorney outside of the AG's office. That's what I mean there. I thought at the last oversight hearing that it was confirmed that, he assists the board members through the investigation, and then when the board decides to prosecute, that's when they need to hire another attorney. But all right, so okay, is there anything else you'd like to add in regards to the questions that were sent? Yeah, probably we can get because you were asking for a number, and you're right, you wrote that 8 days ago to us. We'll see if administration arm of the department of the office can get you those numbers. And no, I don't think you want us to go back to 72. You want something that's more relevant, maybe less since COVID. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, all right. Well, thank you, Mr. Flores. If you could please hang on. I'd like to offer my colleagues an opportunity to ask you some questions, but I'm going to ask the same questions, I guess, to the HPLO staff that's here, so we can get some answers to some of these questions that are
thank you.
Supposedly administrative. Yeah, so I'm looking at an agenda from February 9th meeting, and it lists old business, the complaints. So I'm summarizing that there are 6 complaints from 2019. I think these are all regarding one case. I am gathering that from the minutes. These 2019 cases, there are 6 of them. There's 2 2020 cases, one from January 2020 and one from September 2020. Those are still pending. There are 7 2021 cases from June, September, and November. There is there are 3 2022 cases, it looks like to me. So those are just the brand new ones that have been reported. So of course, I'm trying to get to, what is the impediment to the resolution of these cases? And we've heard some impediments, so I'm trying to, resolve whether those still exist or not. So if I could ask the HPLO staff that is here, is there a process for applicants with records of disciplinary action by boards from other jurisdictions that you're aware of? Who will be speaking? Is it Xenia or?
Madam Speaker, this is Brianna Sablon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hardly see you, but yes, please proceed, Brianna.
Can you see yourself?
Yes, I can see her now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Your question was for the board licensing discussion. Right now, I do not have any answer as far as just what Dr. Berg reported for. There are a total of 2 in January of 2021 and 2 in January of 2022. So a total of 4. And mind you, this is not something we, meaning the HPLO office, gathers or collects data on, but just by looking back at the meeting minutes, that's what I come up with. So January 2021 to January 2022, 2. So a total of 4.
Okay,
and
so
how many physicians were approved with conditions set by the board? Excluding limited licensed physicians who are approved to be supervised by an approved institution that will supervise applicants. Right now, there are none.
It's not true.
So you're saying 4 is the answer to how many physicians granted licenses with prior disciplinary action in other jurisdictions, and 0
Correct.
physicians approved by this board with conditions, right? That have to be
Conditions. Yes, if we're excluding the limited licensed physicians, there are none.
Okay, thanks. And then update as to the information required to be put on the website regarding each physician. The profile.
Sure. So the HPLO, the Health Professional Licensing Office is well aware of the requirement of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, which must include a public disclosure of a physician profile. Since the development or the purchase order award for the development of the website, there has been great progress with a searchable provider directory that has access to partial physician profiles. And the reason I say partial is we have over 600 active physicians and over 1,500 inactive physicians. So the current process for identifying disciplinary actions required by the HPLO staff, they have to manually review each applicant's folder, because this is something we, since my tenure here in this office, this information has not been collected as far as putting on a database. So this is requiring a lot of man hours on our part. The current process for identifying disciplinary actions require that we pull out each licensee's folder and verify the information on the physician's application with supporting documentation. This requires that the HPLO staff review any discrepancies on the physician's application. If there are any errors, the HPLO staff, we will seek the approval from the Office of Attorney General before posting this information on the website. I do have key points as far as making sure that the information is, once that's reviewed from the Office of the Attorney General, upon receipt of approval, then we will post this information, make it readily available for the public. Right now, just some man-hour figures, we are limited as far as personnel in the HPLO office. Currently, I have 1 word processing secretary, 2, who is my only full-time employee, classified employee. I have 3 other word processing secretaries, actually 2, I'm sorry, stand corrected, 2 word processing secretary, 1, and 1 customer service representative, who are all unlimited term appointments. And this right now, it's from the collection of the data that's required for us to post this information, we know we have to get it done, but I think really the compiling of all the data first and putting in all this into the database is our first step. And this is, and right now, to date, the staff, we're only able to complete 50. So 50 50 active physicians profiles that were able to be reviewed, and we have this on a database that is available that we are working with our website team to upload this information. So this is all a work in progress, and we estimate about an hour and a half a day is the man hours spent for our staff to work on this. So that's the only update I have on that, Madam Speaker.
And Madam Speaker, if I could just add to,
just as a reminder. Speaking, please.
This is Zena. This is Zena, Madam Speaker.
Zena Pacina, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Brianna. So I haven't been in the office in the last couple of months as I've been pulled to be the acting chief public health officer, but I still come and try to help out as much as I can here because we are extremely short of man hours. But I just wanted to remind everybody that this law to actually have a website up and going and have all the mandated items that is required by law was put in place back in 2011. So we can't speak to our predecessors and what exactly happened. But I have to say that what we've done since 2019, when Brianna and I came to handle the HPLO, and even getting a website up and going. I mean, that's like the first time that HPLO has ever had a website. And we know the importance of getting all the information into the website, not just for the medical, but also for nursing and all the other boards. So we've been working even during the pandemic. I mean, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, but I remember in 2019, we found out about the law. And then in 2020, we were hit with the pandemic. But that didn't stop us. We kept trying to figure out how can we get this website up and going, because we owed that to the community to get that information out and all the required items that have to go into a website. So we actually got it going, and in 2021, we actually got that going, and we have a functional website, which is still in. It's not even 60% of where we want it to be, but it's an awesome website, and it's still a work in progress. So we do have a contract with a vendor that that maintains our website. So it's a live website. So any changes is automatically made into the website. So it's still a work in progress, and we hope to get all the information that needs to be there in there.
Are the doctors with pending complaints listed on your website, on the 50 profiles?
That's something that we're still working on. So that's like the second phase of our website. So only what's required and what we can by law put into the website will be put into the website.
But you can't confirm whether the doctors with the pending complaints are on the website right now.
So no. So pending, I take it back. So Speaker, we don't put any pending complaints in the website.
No, but I mean, but these doctors who have pending complaints since 2019, 2020, 21, 22.
No.
Are those doctors listed on your website? Are those part of the 50 doctors that you've got so far on your website?
The only things that are pending. Sorry about that. Hello?
You're on.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what was the question, Speaker?
The question is, so the doctors who have complaints against them on Guam, are those doctors part of the 50 doctors who you have up on the website?
Is it the 50 that you put in? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you acknowledge that this law has been in place since 2011. They've been following up since, at least for sure, I came into this place 2019 for sure, 2020, 21. So we're procuring a website developer to keep the website up, but we only got 50 profiles so far. This is supposed to be a patient protection information, right? So what about the compacts? That was one of the big arguments that we should be part of these compacts because we were going to be able to access this information so easily. We're not able to get any assistance in that regard, transferring information to our own website.
Are you talking about the medical compact?
Yes.
I think Speaker, the medical compact is very different from our nursing compact. Yeah, no, they have very separate requirements. So with the nursing licensure compact, yes, we will be able to get that information there, and that's handled by the NLC. However, the medical, I think it's different. I wasn't here when it was actually
I can comment on it.
approved, so maybe
So that's not helping us to get this information uploaded any faster. All right.
Yeah, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, that the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact actually requires that someone have, if you will, a clean record. You can't have any complaints. You can never have been disciplined by a board or have active complaints, or you cannot apply through the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. I have the requirements sitting here in front of me, but I'll just tell you, it's basically that you have to have no disciplinary action from a board, no active investigations. So to be able to apply through the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. So they don't maintain, to my knowledge, I mean, I know that that's part of it. They have to have extremely clean records or you cannot apply. So they don't maintain records of that because that person would not be allowed to be part of the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact for application purposes if they have any of those. Then they have to apply through specifically to each board. They cannot be part of that.
All right, thank you. I'm just looking for,
Nursing is different. I know you dealt with both.
So that you can update this website as required by law. Okay, so back to Brianna or Xenia. Does the board, are you aware of any timelines that have been set for investigating complaints?
No, it's for you. Or it's either one. Yeah.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
Who's speaking?
This is Brianna.
Okay, thank you, Brianna. Yeah. Are you aware of any timelines that have been set by the board for investigating complaints?
No. Right now, we do have an internal process as far as the policy to how we receive and how the investigation will go. But right now, there is no set timelines.
All right. What about notifying complainants of the status of their cases?
Again, I have to go on Mr. Flores when he stated that, we definitely acknowledge that we do need to be better at communicating with as far as the status. But again, status will only be updated to the complainant when it's ready, basically for us to basically let the complainant know. And then that would be a time where we notify the complainant for them to appear in the board meeting for us to give that update. But yes, I agree that we, and meaning me and our attorney Weinberg, have been meeting with complainants. So we are getting better at that process.
All right. Okay, so these are the questions that I've asked you all in advance. So we've heard from the board members that are present, and we've heard from the licensing office itself. I know my colleagues have questions. I also have a lot more questions, but we also have members of the public here to testify. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So if my colleagues would bear with me, I'm going to allow them to testify now, and then I will allow you to ask questions. So the first one is if those testifying. Anyways, we'll start with David Lebowski. Mr. Lebowski, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Please proceed.
Okay. First, I have testimony here, but I want to respond to some of the things that have just been said. When you're talking about notifications that you raised, that speaker, I've had 3 cases in front of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, and I have never received any notifications on any of them, even with emails sent to them and requests for information, even my attorney asking for information. Not only did we not receive notifications, when the case was finalized, they put it in the newspaper. They didn't even tell us the results. So when they sit there and say, oh, we do this, we're going to do this, putting the results of the death of a 5-year-old into the newspaper and not telling the family is not exactly what I would call what you're seeking in terms of notifications. Also, I want to mention, when they're talking about the website, I've been over their website. I went over it a couple of days ago. And there's 2 doctors that they have listed that have histories of medical negligence settlements. The doctors' full profiles are up. It's all clearly there, but they're not noted on the page. So if they are, and they know this because I sent a FOIA to them and they responded and they showed that there was, they showed it in their FOIA that these doctors' complaints were listed on their profiles, but it's not listed online for some reason. Also, just going along with something that you asked, several years ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, I sent a FOIA request to the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. I asked them, can I get a history, can I get a listing of all the doctors that you have licensed with negative histories, malpractice, and so forth. At that time, they said it wasn't available, and they refused to send it to us. All right. This whole hearing, it was important that I say those. It was outside my testimony. This hearing is about one word. It's about impartiality. I'm going to ask some questions, common sense questions. I don't want to upset anybody, but I'm asking, how can the Guam Board of Examiners and the chairperson go to each of you senators privately, go to public hearings, embarrass himself giving the speaker a hard time at the Bill 112-36 hearing, and give continuous interviews that consumers should not be protected from medical negligence by removing the arbitration law? Then we expect him to walk into the medical examiner's meetings and then be impartial and decide fairly on substandard medical care complaints against Guam doctors. It's impossible. He himself even said the death of a 5-year-old was a tragedy, but we shouldn't change anything. Do you think that he can be impartial, or the board can be impartial with that kind of an attitude? It's almost impossible. I ask another question. How can the chair of the board make large income? His own income is based on doctors' referrals, patients to him, then and doctors in clinic, then be expected to impartially investigate these same people for substandard medical care, and by doing so, endangering his own personal cash flow. Again, this is a major conflict of interest. Everyone can see that. This is an appearance of conflict at the very least. Is this impartial? What hasn't been said today is that there's been around 35 cases that have come in front of the board under Dr. Berg's leadership. As of today, from as far as I know, this has been changed. None have been decided in the patient's favor who filed a complaint against the doctor. Is this impossible? 35 cases? Is it impartiality? The board, how can the board even investigate complaints against one of their own impartially? Dr. Berg, as an example, had a complaint against him. And I'm not saying he's guilty, not discussing the merits of the complaint, but I'm asking again, how can his friends on the board investigate him or any board member impartially? No impartial board would even attempt that. And this board only took 2+ months to investigate that complaint with Berg. But then they tell victims of alleged sexual misconduct, oh, it will take a year or longer to investigate, or take 18 months and counting to investigate the death of a child. They still have cases open back 3 years. But Berg's case was given priority over the others. Is that impartial? How can this board keep licensing doctors who have histories of medical negligence or sexual misconduct? I heard the Vice Speaker, Mr. Flores, say there's only been a few. But I listened to almost every single board meeting. And it seems like every board meeting, at least one doctor that comes up has some history of negligence or whatever. The board is designated to protect the people of Guam, but they're licensing these people. And the concern is 32% of malpractice is done by 1% of doctors. So the Arbitration Act attracts negligent doctors to Guam, then the board licenses them, and then some of these negligent doctors do the same sins on Guam to our loved ones. We already know that. That's what the whole discussion is about today. It happens often. In a recent board meeting, which I referenced in my testimony, Dr. Shea, a board member, said that applicant, Dr. Jaffe, had several malpractice settlements against him. Several, that was his words. But then he said, oh, it's not a big red flag for practicing on Guam. Are you kidding me? Several malpractice, not a red flag for practicing on Guam. It would be a red flag anywhere else. And is that why Jaffe came to Guam? There's many stories like that. And the last board oversight hearing, 18 months ago that you referenced, Speaker, Dr. Berg stated clearly that he involves all parties to you during the oversight hearing. He stated they recused themselves of a conflict of interest. I'm asking him now, and I'm asking the board, how many times has Dr. Berg or any board member ever recused themselves? How do they involve all parties when they won't let the public speak? They don't answer emails. They even refuse to allow input into the complaints that people file. Dr. Berg, this is a question for you and the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. Do you recall releasing...
your questions, Mr. Lasky.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Please direct your questions to me or our panel. And yeah, if you could just fix your camera a little bit again so that you continue to show. Thank you.
All right. Do you recall releasing investigation results to the media, not to the family? Is this involving all parties? Do you recall losing the sexual misconduct complaint documents after 4 months of an alleged sexual misconduct victim involving all parties? The same victim that you wouldn't let speak at the board meeting. Well, that's either incompetence or a cover-up or both. You all decide. Is it impartial when the board's attorney tells a victim it may take a year to investigate? Or is that trying to discourage her? Or tells another complainant that she really doesn't have a case through email documented? Is this what lawyers call ex parte communication? It's not the role of the attorney. It's not ethical, and it's not impartial. The board is required by their own policy and public law to have all doctors involved in negligent settlements to report it and to put it on their record. They seem to resist doing this. The board still has, as required, as I said, by law, has not set up a website that shows full physician profiles. We already discussed that. The board has been taken to court recently. I mentioned it in the Allied board meeting this morning. The purpose of taking them to court was simple, to get them to provide guidelines and policies and procedures for the average citizen to be able to go to them and have their case investigated. They didn't want to do that. They want to keep the status quo and let things continue as it is. The Guam Board of Medical Examiners has clearly failed the people of Guam and have served to protect themselves and their colleagues only. This is well documented. They are not protecting us. They are putting our lives at risk is what they're doing. They are putting our daughters, our sisters, our wives, all at risk for sexual abuse by not screening doctors appropriately. In California, this goes along with something that Dr. Berg kept referring to the states. In California, there's pending legislation to overhaul the medical examiners board because of a lawsuit by adding more consumers or non-doctors to the board, among other changes. I do disagree with the vice chair, Mr. Flores, with all due respect, is that when he said that, well, I learned something every day. Mr. Flores is the consumer representative. The doctors should be learning from you, not you learning from the doctors, even though I realize it's a two-way street. We need to do the same on Guam, add more consumers and changes to our board. Thank you very much for allowing me to give testimony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lubofsky. We'll now hear from Danielle Baza. Ms. Baza.
Thank you, Speaker. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Please proceed.
Okay. So I am one of the 7 victims of Abner Passatempo. During my time at rehab in 2019, I would have sessions with him and he would ask me inappropriate questions, exploiting my trauma and sexuality. As someone who has had to humble myself and ask for help one too many times, I see how handicapped the system is. The system put in place to bring order and improve our quality of life by protecting our liberties has become self-serving and does not protect the community. I sought treatment because my life was in shambles. A statistic, a product of the system, a self-destructive and reckless individual. Because the exhausting way of life, I decided to do things differently. Admitting defeat, I turned myself into rehab. And this time was so promising. Dean Tovis, who was a government employee and was Passatempo's underling, was present and, in my opinion, aware of the doctor's proclivities. Tovis and everyone I came across in the recovery community said I was going to make it this time and that I could get help. I was introduced to Passatempo, who specializes in drug addiction. Passatempo came in to assess me after Dean had done something like a pre-screening and then left on cue. As a medical provider, the doctor had a duty to conduct himself professionally, and having trusted him to provide care to me through Oasis, took advantage of that and abused his power. I don't understand why he's still trying to be reinstated by the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, or why his hearings are being stalled. Why are the doctors policing themselves? And how is it not a conflict of interest for the AG's office to provide an attorney for the GVME when they are also supposed to be helping people like me to get justice? And what is the point of these oversight hearings if nothing gets done? And how disrespectful of Dr. Berg to just leave in the middle of Mr. Lebowski's testimony. How insulting is that? And tell me how much he cares if he's doing things like that. His behavior is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baza. We will now, if you could, if you're willing to wait, in case my colleagues have questions, we're now going to proceed with Deanna N.B. Tyron. Deanna.
Hi, Hafide. My name is Deanna Tyron. I just want to start off by saying my heart goes out to Danielle. I'm so sorry. And to Mr. Lebowski, he lost his son. My heart and my prayers go out to you guys. Sitting here as a victim as well, who's had my complaint lost by the Guam Medical Board, I have to say it is horrific hearing how nonchalant some of these doctors are in regard to these situations. You are well-educated people, and you guys know what these people are capable of if they have prior things against them. It is just so horrific. In regard to my complaint, this goes all the way back to November 8th of 2021. I tried to contact them and make a complaint and schedule a meeting with Zena. I had no response until November 16th. I was finally able to do my complaint on November 17th. And then on January 13th, I got emailed by Sienna Galindo asking for a favor because she's working for remote and she wants a copy of my stamped complaint. On January 18th, I requested a copy of my complaint prior to the January 19th meeting, which it would have been spoken about there. I got no response and I did not receive a copy. Then on January 20th, Brianna Sablon emailed me and at 7:30 at night and said, the complaint is missing and if I could please provide them with it. It has been so hard to deal with this, not only as a survivor, but for so many months waiting for something, waiting for a response, waiting for the investigation to begin, waiting for communication back. only to find out that my complaint has been lost. You guys do not have to carry this weight of trauma on your shoulders, but I do for the rest of my life. Danielle has to for the rest of her life. Mr. Lebowski has to for the rest of his life. And I plead that this does not fall on deaf ears and that you do better. You know, Dr. Berg just compared parole to, you know, bringing in other doctors to Guam. Why is that the standard? Parolees is our standard for medical care? I'm disgusted. Our people deserve better. We deserve better, and you need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tyron. There's now D. Tyron. D. Tyron.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
All right. Can you turn on your video, please? And you may proceed.
Wait, sorry. Hold on, Senator. I'm sorry, Speaker. I thought that I was just emailing my my letter to you, but
I'm so sorry. Okay. All right.
I'm just. May I say one thing though?
Are you able to turn the camera on?
I'm sorry. I thought it was on. One moment.
Just it's one of the legislative rules. That's why. Okay.
Is it on now? Yes.
Yes, it is.
You know, I just I'm listening to everything everyone is saying, and not familiar with you know the rules and regulations and legalities. I still need to, I guess, do more research, and so I can familiarize myself. But I would like to say that I was in shock, and I don't know if anybody can clarify that when it was said that the board cannot, I think it was Mr. Phil Flores who said the board cannot fire anyone as far as the physicians. I just was shocked to hear that. And so you know, I would want to further clarify then what can the board do? You know, what power do they have? Why are they existing? They can give the license, but he's saying that they cannot fire or release anyone. So what are they there for? And who can terminate the physician or the medical professional that is, you know, that is being questioned or investigated? Well, who fires them if they can't, is what he said. Did I understand that correctly? If someone has anything to say on that?
I believe he was talking about the HPLO board, which is the division, the staff that is hired by the Department of Public Health and Social
I see.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry, one more thing. In the beginning, Mr. Berg was adamant with you when you were questioning him, as in reference to the questionnaire you had sent out on February 8th. And he came back many times saying that that is the admin section, and that you know, they would be the ones to handle those numbers and so forth. But then shortly after that, he said that they're a team and they all try to work as one. I know I understood that, I believe, clearly. And so, you know, I'm questioning Mr. Berg as to, you know, where does he stand? Is it they work separately, or do they all work together as one? And if so, then he should be, I believe, as the head of the board, familiar, you know, or he should have familiarized himself when he got the questions that you had. You know, he should have taken more responsibility with the seriousness going on here, and he should have been able, as the head of the board, to answer. And me as a common person, I would just like to put that out there, you know, that he should have been more responsible in answering these serious allegations. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Dee. All right. All right. We have questions from the panel. I'm sure I have a couple real quick ones that I'd like to ask. Is Dr. Berg here? Not?
Madam Speaker, he told me earlier today that he's got some cases now. He probably ran off to those.
Oh, all right. So, all right. So I was going to say we've got 2 out of 6 board members. I think I calculated that, right? And, 3 were here earlier. Now we've got 1. And yeah, and I really thought it was important for the public to hear from the board members themselves, not just the HPLO staff, because it's that feel for whether the board cares about these serious allegations. I agree with the last person testifying that these are serious allegations that have been made. It's serious when the complaints are delayed. It's serious, if we have physicians licensing here with concerns in other jurisdictions that have not been resolved, or that the community cannot feel safe in regards to, especially the allegations of sexual assault or sex, regarding sexual.
Any response, Speaker?
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask a couple questions.
Okay.
My first question is, have licenses been suspended or tabled due to pending investigations or complaints? Because I went over the list earlier of how many complaints are still pending. Have any licenses renewals been suspended or tabled due to those pending complaints?
I'm going to say no, because we want, unless it's so egregious and obvious, we wouldn't do that until we'd finish our investigation. And that's why, though it takes a while, why we move as quickly as possible. But if I go to Pasatiempo, he's been trying to get his license back for a couple of years. And I'd be, this is not the final ruling, but I'd be very surprised if he ever got it back. And Kenya, I hope that brings some type of relief. And Dee, if you could, the board did not lose your complaint. The staff lost the complaint. And I'm not throwing them under the bus, but the board did not lose it. And if you could provide us a copy, that would help us a lot to get your case going again. And David, I'm so sorry about your loss. I've told you that before. We are working on yours, and I expect that there's going to be some type of resolution in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. So the board was, at least one member of the board was quoted in the media justifying the granting of licensure to medical professionals with past complaints of sexual assault due to the great need for doctors in that specialization. And this is concerning. I mean, I know we have a great need for doctors, but do you think that the need for a doctor in that specialization outweighs the need to ensure patient safety from potential harm, and that the board is doing everything possible to protect patients?
Yes, the board member who investigated that was also a psychiatrist, and we know that he had problems. Was it Maryland or somewhere else? But we investigated it, and we felt it would be all right to bring him out. I was new to the board at that time, and as David said, I could go there every time and learn something. But if you don't learn, you don't become better. And if you aren't learning, then you can't contribute to what's going on. So that's what I meant when I said that. But yeah, that was kind of a hard one. And we brought him out, but it was a difficult decision.
Well, it seems like there's still pending decisions in some of these where there are sexual allegations. The other thing is, we're looking to, possible amendments to the law to see how we can better this process. But what about one of the other things where I'm trying to track the complaints and the actions on the complaints, and there's a big gap in the minutes, as they're supposed to be posted they're supposed to be sent to the legislature. They're also supposed to be posted on the HPLO or the public health's website. That's not done. And I know you might say this is a staff issue, but it's also a board issue. The board must.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for pointing that out. I wasn't aware of that. I know we go over minutes every meeting, and all the board members are given a draft copy, and then we'll adopt it or approve it at the next meeting, subject to amendments and deletions, additions. If we're not posting it, well, that's a shortfall on the staff's part, and I know staff is listening. If we're supposed to post it, post it.
Yeah, some of these date back to 2018, but they're relevant because we're talking about the same doctors at this point who the board, dealt with a case against this doctor, and now there are multiple complaints against that same doctor. And that's why those minutes from 2018 are very relevant, but unavailable to me at least, and to the public, it looks like.
Well, if they're not, you've asked for them, we haven't given you them. They're available. If we haven't given to you, that's a different thing. And I ask the staff that's participating in this to please get those to the speaker immediately.
So I did make a special request for them, but I'm saying, yeah, they should be posted for the public. And this is for patient protection again, right? That minutes are posted and that you're able. Yes, Xenia?
I have something to say.
Madam Speaker, this is Brianna from the HPLO office. The minutes reporting requirements have all been sent to your office and is also posted on the website.
Okay, so now you're saying they're now posted on your website or public health, or which website?
It's been posted on the GBME website, and the minutes have also been sent to your office.
Okay.
So we have a policy here, Speaker, that this is Zena, that once the meetings are done and the minutes are approved, it gets sent immediately to the OPA, it gets sent to the governor's office and also to the legislature. And then we've added you on, so it goes to the speaker's office as well. So we were mandated by law to send it to all those three entities, and then we added you on to to our process. So we send it out in a timely manner.
Okay, I'm just saying we've checked right before this hearing. Not all are up there. So yeah, if you could please just review those and ensure that they are.
Madam Speaker,
yes.
You'd mentioned something about amending the laws, and I didn't realize that the GBME started in '72. I'm not sure how often it's been updated, the rules and regulations governing the GBME, but Guam is not in 2022. We're not at all what we were in 1972. We weren't what we were in 1992. Heck, we weren't what we were 30 months ago. And if there probably it's evolution, and there probably should be some hard looks at whatever our regulations govern us and how to bring them update to for today's environment.
All right, thank you. So the reason why I asked about an update on that website and the Patient Protection Act is because we're trying to see what patients can find out about these doctors that they're seeing, even before they make a complaint, perhaps if they're feeling uneasy about it and they want to see, is this doctor have any, actions previously in some other jurisdiction that's supposed to be available to these patients. So we browsed GBME's website. We were able to find some information under, for example, Dr. Pasatiempo's profile. That's one that's been in the newspaper as well. We found that, however, Dr. Acoma's profile did not list any information about actions in other jurisdictions. We're finding that out from the reporter, who's been very resourceful. And but the board has admitted that they were aware of those. And so it also doesn't list the conditions that were imposed upon him when he was allowed to get a license here on Guam, and what those conditions were, whether he is complying. Nothing about it is reported in that profile. The other thing is that it lists his license status as valid, but its expiration date is December 2021. So we've been told, I guess, in answer to one of my questions, that everyone with a pending complaint, his license has been renewed by the board. Could you just tell me in regards to Dr. Acoma, some members, according to the minutes, have recused themselves from investigation of this complaint. Did any members recuse themselves from the licensing or renewal of the license of Dr. Acoma? Maybe that's.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not, I'm not stuck. I'm just trying to remember. I don't think so. I don't think so. I do know I knew Dr. Berg recused himself from the case because he's seeing a coma very, not as a patient, but just, Guam is Guam. And that's why he recused himself on that. But I don't think he recused himself on the vote. I'm not 1,000% sure, but I'm 999% sure.
Is anyone on the HPLO staff able to confirm that? Or if you could confirm that before we end the hearing? Okay.
Let me put it this way then, Speaker. I don't think anybody recused himself, and if the staff can correct me,
all right.
Please do.
Thank you. Okay, so does the board, or the, Mr. Flores, I heard your explanation about the missing documents. Maybe if the HPLO office could explain how do documents go missing?
Yeah, I didn't give an explanation because I don't understand either.
Sure. If you could hear an explanation from the HPLO board.
Can she hear you? Hello, Madam Speaker, this is Brianna. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Brianna.
Okay, thank you. Yes, on behalf of the HPLO office, yes, it's really unfortunate that we have lost the complaint for the complainant. But my due diligence, I did reach out. We're being truly honest with the complainant in trying to obtain that the complaint form, and we have tried to multiple times trying to request for that. So and we on our end we have been unsuccessful in getting another copy and obtaining another copy. It's unfortunate, and I sincerely apologize to the complainant. But to date, we still have not received anything.
All right. Do you have any explanation as to how it was lost? Is there some gap in your processing of complaints, or what happens to them when you receive them?
Madam Speaker, I cannot answer on, as far as we do have an internal policy procedure with how complaints are received.
What is that? How are they received? How do you receive them?
Sure. So if the complaint is received from the public in person, the complaint form is received date stamped by the HPLO staff. Then that is scanned and password protected and sent immediately to the chair and our legal counsel. From there, that complaint will be assigned to a board member for investigation. And then if we should have any other evidence or any supporting documents, that will all be forthcoming. But again, the complaint is, and especially if we know of a conflict of interest, we definitely square that away before a board member is assigned as an investigator. But right now, that is our process, and I can't say that there was a gap, but in this case, because we do, and I do acknowledge we lost the complaint, there seems to be something we can definitely we definitely need to work on as far as how it's handled from receiving from the public or via email to the chairperson and our legal counsel.
Was it by email or hand delivery?
It was hand delivered, and it was, I believe it was just the HPLO form that was submitted with an attachment.
Okay. And
can I just
go ahead?
Speaker, can I just add to that? So, when I first found out about that, we all kind of had a huddle, and we we all discussed and tried to figure out what happened. And I think just so that you have a little background about our office, so everything is done manually. We're trying to automate all our files. So we have files and files, and right now what medical does is when they do have a file, they have two other individuals that inputs all this data, and then they get it into a database so that we automate whatever files come to play. And I think at that moment, there must have been a whole bunch of files that they were working on. So we're backtracking to see whether maybe it was misfiled. And so there were files that were being prepared for a board meeting. So there was just so many files, and that's one of the reasons why we really have to automate our system, because there's that potential to lose things, and we've identified that. So.
All right. I was going to ask the board members when they, so if one of the board members conflicts out of being an investigator, investigating a case, sometimes you hire an off-island person to do the investigation, or if there's conflicts. And I was wondering if the board puts a time frame on those off-island investigators as to how long, before you get a response.
Oh, I'm the only board member here, so I'll respond. I can't tell you, Speaker.
All right.
I don't look at those contracts. Do we say you have to get back to us in 90 days or 30 days? I apologize, but I don't know. We can find out.
Who negotiates the contracts?
I don't think go ahead. Sania? Sania, or Brianna, were we gonna say something?
Yes, thank you. Madam Speaker, I do. And beforehand, we kind of just give a little, without any names, we just give a little general detail of what will entail for the investigator to review, or the expert witness. And then they would give us an estimate of how long the review will take. From there, they come back and, give us that. But yes, I believe the minimum right now is at least 1 month, 30 days. And right now we have another one that's already past the 90-day mark. So it really just depends on the severity of the complaint and then medical records for review. So it really is case by case.
All right. And is there anything that requires that investigators need to be from the same field when it comes to cases that are not alleging malpractice or negligent, medical care, where they're alleging, for example, sexual misconduct, or they're alleging fraud, or they're alleging not reporting something that they were supposed to report? Do those types of cases require an investigator in the same medical field?
Specialty, like if it's an example, if it's a head trauma and requires the expertise of a neurosurgeon, then yes, we would. Those are the specialties that we filled out. But if it's just if it's a regular licensure kind of thing, then the board members can handle that.
All right. Yeah, because I'm looking at, for example, the case of Pasatiempo, the parts that I can find on record talk about the recommendations have not yet been given from the investigator. They had to get an off-island specialist to review the sexual assault allegations. And so I guess I'd like an explanation of that. If these are sexual assault allegations, do we need psychiatry specialists to investigate?
We actually went off-island because of conflict of interest. So the psychiatry community is so small that every investigator that we tried to procure would not do the case, because in one way or another, they've worked with the individual physician and they did not want to take the case.
All right. Is there a requirement that a psychiatrist investigate a psychiatrist if it's a sexual assault allegation? Is that required in the statute? I'm not finding that. Or is
no.
that a policy, or is that a rule or regulation?
It's a board decision. They decide based on the case which physician to obtain.
All right.
So like for pediatrics, if they wanted a pediatrics hospitalist or a pediatric intensivist, so there's just different specialty, and so it's the board that ultimately decides.
Okay, so Mr. Flores, you're the last remaining board member here, which is very sad to me because these, I think the public and rightly so deserves answers and is very interested to know, how the board feels about this type of thing. And if the procurement of off-island specialists for, conflicts within a certain field, I would, if that's delaying the process, then I would just ask the board to re-examine if it's really necessary that we get a specialist in a certain field to examine whether there was sexual misconduct, for example, right?
Okay, first off, I
I
understand.
need a neurosurgeon to tell me whether a neurosurgeon committed sexual assault. That's the question, right? And I don't think.
Well, I think the case that we're talking about where we went off island and we had we were able to find somebody on island, a psychiatrist to work it. It was the question of the complainant felt that the questions coming from the psychiatrist were unwarranted and sexual advance. So we gave it to a psychiatrist here to ask if his questions were in that manner, or would those be normal questions or possibly normal questions in a psychiatric exam. And that's why we gave that to a psychiatrist.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flores. Okay, I'm going to open it for my colleagues. Thank you again for your patience and for your interest in this hearing and the importance of these matters we're discussing. Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Mr. Flores, and to the board staff. Thank you for being here. For those that have testified, also as community, thank you as well. This was a very informative hearing, and one of the things that I'm walking away with is that obviously there's a process. There's a major flaw in the process. I don't take that there was a report that was lost very lightly. In my past experience, in my past life as law enforcement, you take that as sacred, and most especially when you're dealing with the lives and the occurrences of individuals, that doesn't sit very well with me. And if there's one thing that I would like to see as a priority, please, is that the process of handling the complaints when they come in, whether it be electronically, verbally, orally, or otherwise, that it be held secret. You're talking about the lives of individuals and information that's vital, and in some cases very private. I would please, if that can be taken care of. I really don't have any questions. I'm still digesting all the information that has been shared tonight, most especially by the individuals who have been affected or would like to see as a community, an opportunity for better voice in the selection of those medical professionals that want to practice on this island, that that they're heard to as well. So, Mr. Flores, I hate to put you in the spot, but can I get some of those assurance in as far as the reporting?
Yes, Senator. I don't want people to come away from this, especially using in the legislature, to think that that the staff and the board is working as hard as they can. We are, and it's not always evident. And I'm sorry that Dee, we lost your submission. Please give us a copy of it so we can start working on it again. But it's not like we lose those all the time. This is the first time I've ever heard it's happened. But I do believe we can do a much better job of communicating with the complainants. When David says that he read about the resolution in the newspaper instead of we talking to him, that's not the proper way to do it. We could do a better job. And I think if there's anything that we're all going to come away with here, especially those of us in the HPLO and those on our medical board, is our job. We need to do a better job of communicating in our relations with the public. Yeah, so you can get you have my insurance on that.
Thank you very much. And Brianna Zinnia, thank you for admitting that there was an issue. And a lot of times, unfortunately, whether it be in the private or the public sectors, people like to pass the buck. But thank you for recognizing it, and I also appreciate that you're going to also work just as hard to make sure that what Ms. Tyron had to go through, even what Mr. Lebowski had to go through, or Ms. Baza, that doesn't happen again. So thank you very much. Thank you much, Madam Chair. I've got to head out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator Blas. Masi. Senator Taitakwi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll try not to repeat some of the questions that you asked. You touched on a lot of that I had concerns about. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for this late hour for being here and taking the time. Madam Chair, I just think that we didn't have sufficient enough board members here to answer some of these questions. Some of your questions were not answered with numbers that were missing. And I think that this would call for another oversight and providing a timeline in which Dr. Berg is not off doing something else, maybe had a prior engagement, but maybe putting, other than Mr. Flores being here to take the grunge for everybody, but it's understandable why some of the board members are not here. It's justifiable. And my condolences to those board members at that situation. But I really think that this is so important, Madam Speaker, that we also have another oversight hearing to bring these board members to the public to answer these questions and provide those numbers. So I hope that happens. I do have a question with regards to something that was mentioned earlier with a doctor being monitored from another state. It was so far back. I've been sitting in Zoom since 9 o'clock this morning up to this time. So I remember someone bringing up monitoring a doctor that's here who's being monitored from another state on another issue. Does anybody remember that, Phil or Brianna?
Brianna or Xenia, if you can fill in what I miss, we'll leave out. But yes, the doctor was in an active, I'm going to call it program or monitoring in another jurisdiction. We contacted that jurisdiction to see how he was coming along. Is he doing what he's supposed to be doing? Because even if he's here in Guam, he still has to be reporting to that jurisdiction. And again, I can't recall which state it was. Ladies, can you do a better job than I just did on that?
Well, actually, Phil, that exactly. I just wanted to hear that, if that was true to form, because if someone is being investigated or being monitored for something that they've done in another state, and that individual now is flown over to Guam to work here on Guam, and for the board to, allow this individual to still come on board with that hanging over their head, okay. I would think, yes.
All right. Let me go further then. The individual did not lose his license. He was still permitted to practice in the jurisdiction, but he was in I'm not going to call it a recovery program, but I'll call it a recovery program. He was still allowed to practice in the jurisdiction, and they found that he was capable. He just had to go through, I'm going to call it like having your driver's license suspended, and you don't get it back till you can pass a test again. Okay. And but again, the staff, or is any Brianna, am I saying this accurately, or am I accurate when I'm saying?
Hi, Senator Taitakwi. Yes, Phil, you're about right. So it's almost like a recovery program. So for healthcare professionals, if so let's say there's diversion. You have a nurse that gets caught taking medication from the hospital, or a physician. They go into a program. It's a diversional program. And so they go through like a rehab. And so they have to do certain things and they monitor them, but they can still work. So for the first phase of the program, they're actually pulled out until they withdraw, or whatever the recovery phase is, and then they're put back to work on a limited basis. And that means they're either monitored or they're not allowed to do certain things. So there's a program that they follow. Guam does not have that program per se. So the individual that came from, I think it was Minnesota, they had a really good bus program. They just pushed the program. I think that individual was like 3/4 to the end of the program. So they were allowed to come and practice on Guam, but they continued the monitor program until it was completed. Does that make sense?
I think, Senator, and I can tell you, it's not thinking, I know. If you're a physician from Mississippi and you'd had your license yanked, you weren't able to practice there anymore, we're not going to let you in. We're going to keep you outside. You're on mute. Sir, you're on mute.
We can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Okay. What about if a physician was under investigation in that jurisdiction and come to Guam and want to try to get licensed here while they're being investigated in another jurisdiction? Do you guys still allow them?
Well, we first, we have a couple things to check on you. And again, that doctor from Mississippi, if he's in the National Data Protection Board, that says something is wrong or an investigation, we throw the brakes on. We also have, the staff can tell you, management can tell you what it's called, but we have a bunch of yes, no, yes, no, yes, no questions. And if you answer yes, you have to have an explanation. And one of them comes down there. Have you ever had your license suspended, or are you under investigation, anything like that? Again, the brakes screechingly halt. And we find out exactly what it is. So if you're under an investigation, we're not going to let you in until we find out exactly what that is.
Okay. And you mentioned, well, actually 90 days or up to a year on some of these cases to be, finalized. It's quite a long time, especially if you're dealing with a doctor who continues to have their license and continuing to work, that they can harm somebody else. I mean, of course, everyone is proven innocent. Is innocent until proven guilty. However, when it comes to life or death or the harm of an individual that's left in trust to a doctor, we're all supposed to trust. That's a long period of time. Phil, is there any way or any idea that you can think of to fast track that investigation rather than, going on for almost a year to investigate?
Some of them are going on for more than a year. And you're right about that, Senator. And I don't mean to keep passing this off to Brianna and Xenia, but they can tell you what we're doing to try to speed that up. Ladies?
Go ahead, Xenia.
Senator, so, hi. So I'm gonna, we're not like the Lone Ranger in regards to how long the cases take. Actually, we're a lot quicker because I'll give you a really good case, a good case scenario. So we had a nurse practitioner from California who was under investigation. He came to Guam, but we were not aware of that case at all because it was under investigation. And California law does not put pending cases into their database. So that nurse practitioner had a good license, so he was able to come to Guam, practice for 5 years. After that 5th year, then his case was closed and they revoked his license. And that was the time that we were able to revoke license as well. But it took them 5 years to actually close their case. So that's just one scenario. So I think, although it seems pretty long, I think Guam, I think the boards now, not just the medical, but all the other boards are moving as quickly as they can, based on the situation that we've been given, pandemic and the.
Sorry, there's a freeze. You're frozen, Xenia, you're frozen. Madam Speaker, I think they had logged off. They lost connection. So that being said, once again, Madam Speaker, we didn't have a good representation of the board here today during this public hearing or this oversight hearing as well. Yeah, someone said hello. They're trying to get in. So I think, I see them trying to log in. Xenia, are you there?
So we're back.
Okay, thank you. I don't see you on the screen though. Your camera is off, so you might want to turn that on. So anyways, you kind of answered my question with the difficulties, or that it's easy. I mean, you're doing better than most jurisdictions, but my real question is, what ideas do you have to assist in these cases to be, rectified or heard sooner than later? Not later, but sooner. And I just hope you look into that area, what we can do as a legislature to process that as well. The legislature coming into some type of amendments that the speaker was talking about earlier to assist the HPLO as well as the board, providing guidance that might put an end to some of the issues that we have. I look forward to that because I think legislation would help with transparency as well as continued communication, especially if it's required to that. But Madam Chair, I think the true heroes there are those who are working very hard, doing their job, but the true heroes I think here are people like Danielle Baza, Dee, and the others who testified, David Lombosky. To me, these are the true heroes because it takes a lot to come in front of this board, facing, these obstacles, carrying on their shoulders what they went through, devastating issues that psychologically is so damaging, that they came here to testify. I'm sure there are a lot more out there who would like to, but are too afraid. And that's why I call these guys who came here to testify my heroes, because it takes a lot to do what they did today, coming and testifying in front of people. I mean, I know I've been in a situation myself when I had to talk about the medical issues on island and doctors and medical malpractice, where my doctor sent me a Dear John letter because I spoke up. So I want to thank you, Dee and Danielle and Lavosky, as well as Tian, who was here earlier, for being true heroes and being here today. And I hope that you continue to advocate for the cause. And it's very emotional for me right now because I think I just want to say I know everybody wants what's in the best interest for our people and our island and don't want any harm to be caused to anyone. But we have to speak up. We have to ask these questions. It's very important. And Zena, I see your hand raised up. I'll go ahead and let you respond.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. I'm glad you brought that up because one of our strategic plan for the HPLO, the licensing board, is to be more visible because I agree. I really commend everyone else that came out, like Danielle, because it's tough. It's really tough to come out and say these things, and it's so hurtful. So, one of the things that we want to do is get the information out. Like, what does the board do? What is the board for? How can they help with cases like this? We want that information to go out to the community that, this is the place. I mean, if they have a case and they need to present it, then please come to the board and we're going to be here to assist. But if more information about what the board, what our roles and responsibilities are, should really go out. So that is one of our strategic plans.
Thank you. Thank you, Zena. I appreciate that. And please continue to keep everyone abreast, especially communication-wise. I think Mr. Flores brought that up, the importance of being more transparent and staying in communication. So again, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking forward to another oversight. Maybe we can have everyone be here this time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. And I'll be frank with you, I'm not looking forward to another oversight because I share some of the sentiments of those who've testified that, we're doing oversight in the face of sometimes laws that are just being ignored. And, we are trying to bring accountability to the public as to, the actions of these board members, staff of agencies. And so, we're trying to do our part. We're trying to shed light. We're trying to allow a forum for additional discussion of these things, for the concerns to really be heard. And I personally invited the board members because I want them to hear for themselves, not have it interpreted for them, what these people feel, how it has impacted their lives, the delays in addressing the complaints, the non-responses to the complainants, or the no updates to the complainants has also very much affected them, and that we can do better. And I'm so glad that the board members, Mr. Flores especially, was able to admit that there are places they can do better. The HPLO staff has also admitted there are places they can do better. I've not heard of oversight hearings of any of the health licensing boards prior to my term in the legislature. I had not seen any, and I know I was questioned very much when I decided to call on oversight the first time over the medical licensing board. But, I think it's very important. These are very powerful boards, and the medical profession in particular, all these health professions in particular have a great ability to impact our lives forever, and so we are very much relying on these board members to do everything that the laws state to protect us from, unprofessional conduct and there's a huge list of unprofessional conduct, to protect us from negligent conduct, negligent medical care, and also to continue to perfect their systems so that we do not have gaps in we all know what we're trying to do. I think we all come into boards and into our own office knowing what we want to do. The HPLO staff, I'm sure, have the same intent, but we have to admit when that is not what it looks like to the public is happening. And I do have enough examples to show that we have improvements to make. And I am glad for the improvements that have been made since we've been having these oversights. And I have to say, yeah, so we have seen some. We've seen the website actually get posted up now. We've seen the accountability for the complaints, in all of the meetings. We've seen some of the minutes posted up. We've seen some of these, promises that the complainants themselves are going to be informed of the status of their cases. We've seen the accounting, that the boards are now aware of how much money they have entitled to them. We've seen the hiring, finally, of professionals for actual adjudication of complaints, including lawyers. And, so we still have challenges, but I'm doing, along with my colleagues who are very dedicated, like Senator Taitigui, Senator Blas, Senator Ada, those who remain with us, Senator Brown, and show up for these hearings, Senator Paris, but also, this is what we can do from the legislative branch, in addition to funds and in addition to changing the laws themselves. But I'm saying when we have laws that are just being ignored, that is an executive branch function to enforce laws, to enforce regulations, to enforce licensing procedures. And so I think we all need to work together, and none of this would have been possible without, very brave people coming forward and showing the true impacts on them and their families, showing that our community owes these people who are brave enough to do that. It is a huge thing, as Senator Taitigui said, to say something about a doctor who might in turn deny you care. And that's huge. And that is something that we all face if we are going to bring complaints. And so I'm asking the board to to please address these as expeditiously as possible and with as much diligence as possible and thoroughness and fairness and to bring some closure for these people and some justice. So from the hearing, I just want to talk about some of the findings that I'm going to put. So after these oversight hearings, we normally put findings together. And so my findings are pretty much going to be the answers to the questions that we've asked and that my colleagues have asked, answers to some of the complaints that have been made by those who've testified, including that there is no formal process as to the determination of licensing or not for those who have discrepancies in other jurisdictions, and that's done on a case-by-case basis. And currently there's nothing in writing, and I'm recommending that the board review that and that they put in writing policies that will help them to determine that and how to treat those different types of cases. That we track those types of cases, the HPLO board and HPLO staff, and that we track how many cases of maybe we put on notice, as a in Guam that this person has priors. I mean, we should track those close, and we should know how many of those types of cases we are allowing and whether our judgment is good or not. If I'm making that type of decision, I would want to follow very closely whether I took a good risk, or a bad risk, and make a procedure so that we always can better assess the risk. And in court, and at the courts, the way they describe it is a risk. How do you assess the risk to the community from, allowing this person out, or in this case, allowing this person to be licensed in this jurisdiction where there's been actions against them prior. That is a risk assessment that we are relying on the board to make and trusting them, with very much our lives. We've also seen a small progress on the website, but very much not satisfactory. 50 positions out of the numbers that you've told us. It's just not satisfactory for the intent of that website, which is for patients to do for themselves, right? And to look up physicians themselves. The complaint investigation timeline, I very much believe that the boards are acting in good faith in this regard and that they're doing volunteer work and they're working very hard, but I want them to be very aware that some of these timelines have drawn out and that they have very serious impacts from not being resolved. And I would like them to set some type of procedure so that if there is a delay for any reason, and we know the reasons for delay, and so we can predict those, and if those reasons occur, that we have an alternate plan of action to more promptly address these cases. So those are some of the findings. Of course, the committee is continuing to look at gaps in the law if we can improve. For example, right now our law does not require that complaints against any Guam physician by a Guam complainant be posted on the website right now, as Mr. Flores reminded us. And we'll take another look at that. But the issue is, if the complaints are not addressed promptly, then something else has to be done. All right, and so again, my deepest thanks, Mr. Flores, to you for being here today. My only personal advice to you is please don't rely on the physicians. We are relying on you. We need you and your professional input. Not as a physician. You're put on this board not because physicians have all the answers. It's because we want just a common sense approach from someone in the public as to whether these complaints are taking too long, whether we really need to wait for that type of an investigator, or we could resolve them more promptly, whether the board or the staff is doing its job as required by law. That is what we are relying on you and every single board member to do. And so,
thank you. And in closing, Speaker, I'm glad you're going to be putting together a summary, and I'm assuming that our office will get it. the PLO office will get it, and we can distribute that to our other board, myself, the other board members, and we can study that because I think as I said before, every one of our meetings, I learned something. I've learned some more things tonight. And I don't want to throw our staff at HPLO under the bus. Brianna, Xenia, Sienna, they work very, very hard. And the reason I got on the board is because Governor Eddie asked me to, and it was hard to turn down. I said, oh, plus I'm going to learn something. And I can tell you that during the change of administration, the staff right now that we have is it's miles ahead of what it was before. Though we may sometimes come up short, I want everybody to know that we are trying very, very hard. We're also patients. And I'm guessing maybe I'm the oldest person on the screen. So I'm closer to being a serious patient than anybody else. And my daughter is a physician, as you may know. And I take the medical community and what they do for us very, very seriously, as does the HLPO office. And we don't want to let any bad apples in. Something will get through. There's no stopping that, but there's preventing it. And that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, again, and thank you for your presence. Thank you for your work on the board. We wish you the best and all the members. And if they have any questions, please contact me. The same thing with HPLO staff. We remain in close contact. And, again, you're a division of the Department of Public Health. And if there's any assistance that you need, we have to have those discussions with the department. And I am willing to do my part here at the legislature in terms of policy setting. I'm willing to do my part in terms of oversight hearings and shedding light on topics that need to be discussed, pointing out things that look wrong, frankly. And but we need, as a community, all of us to work together, the boards, the agencies, the public, to be very bold and participating. And again, to just to you. And we need the executive branch to enforce the laws. We need, GPD, AG, everyone. All of us have to work together. We need these institutions providing medical care and other types of health care to do their part as well. So together, we're going to continue to do this slowly but surely if we have to, but hopefully more quicker. As I said, this is our third oversight, and some of the problems remain, with very little progress. So again, Jesus Masi, Senator Taitakui, and all my colleagues, and there is no additional individuals to present testimony. This virtual oversight hearing is now adjourned. We do have written testimony that has been submitted by some people that will also be included in the record. A record of this hearing, a verbatim transcript will be provided, as well as findings by the committee, and all of that will be posted on the legislative website. So it's
Thank you,
now
sir.
6:41.
Senator Tadaway, if you ever feel you just want to call me and ask me about stuff, just do it.
All right.
Absolutely. I have your number. Will do.
I know. I was texting with the speaker last time too.
Thank you, Brianna and Xenia and Mr. Flores and Senator Taitakui. Just Masi, it's 6:41 p.m.
It's just last thing. Yes.
Have you or a loved one been injured through medical negligence or substandard medical care? Are you angry? File complaints through the Guam Board of Medical Examiners to make physicians accountable. It's time that we stand up to protect our families and the people of Guam. The complaint form can be found at GBME's website, www.guammedical.org. Have questions or want the form emailed to you? Contact us at asher@asherdeanlubofsky.com or our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/bunzoasher. We do not provide legal or other professional info or services. We do this to improve medical care on Guam through medical accountability equity. Justice for those injured or killed through medical negligence on Guam.
Hafa Day. I'm the owner of Guam's largest tourist attraction group. The pandemic's been very tough for all of us, and particularly for my team members. So I'm really appreciative and grateful for the PUA assistance to our team members, and more recently, the SVOG federal grant that allowed us to reopen these facilities and re-employ everyone at a critical time when PUA ended. From myself and my team, on behalf of all of us, thank you for the federal funds that allowed us to reopen.
The federal fund you provide saved many jobs. Thank you so much.
We employ about 35 technicians for our shows. Thank you for the federal funds. It kept us going.
Thank you for helping with the federal funds.
Thank you for the federal funds.
Thank you for helping to save our jobs.
Thank you for the federal funds.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.